Open up your eyes, take a look at me. Get the picture fixed in your memory. I'm driven by the rhythm like the beat of a heart. And I won't stop until I start to stand down.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the LorcanaCast. We are here doing a quick hot takes episode. We are here with the Three Musketeers from GAMA. That'll be the team from the Illumiteers, as well as Citizens of Lorcana team. It is really exciting because we have all kinds of cool news, and we're going to talk to these three gentlemen right now about what's going on at GAMA. So how's everybody doing tonight?
Great.
Excellent.
Yeah, can't complain at all. It's been amazing.
So tell us a little bit about what you've done in the last couple days, because I know Twitter and Discord isn't really covering the grand scope of what's going on for y'all.
Gosh, I mean, there's so much. It's hard to cover in a few sound bites, but I'll describe a little bit of the first day and then turn it over to these two. You know, Lorcana was around and the team was here on the ground the first day, but the first time we really saw them was at the demo night late last night. And I have to say, they started out at a table in the middle of the room. The next thing you know, they had to move to the side of the room because the crowd was so big. And we have to remember for those of us in the Lorcana community, we've been following the game, the rules, the art. But for a lot of these retailers, this was their first exposure to the game. And so there was just a crush of people wanting to see what the game was like, to the point where one of the amazing Ravensburger's employees grabbed a puzzle and started scribbling numbers on the back and handing them out to people so that we could keep track of who was in line. And it was just an incredible experience to see people experience this game for the first time, to see the art, nothing but smiling faces that I saw, and it was pretty cool. But that was kind of our first exposure to the game here at GAMA, but I'll let these other guys talk about what happened after that.
Well, and to Liam's point about retailers being surprised, one of my biggest things that you couldn't quite get from the video was when they talked about how Lorcana was going to be a multiplayer game. There's like a gasp in the crowd as people were like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy that's baked into the system.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many little things that we've been seeing that are just indicative of how people are learning about this game that are in the industry and what they're, you know, the pluses and the minuses of what they're feeling about it and how those things are being addressed by Ravensburger. And so on the ground here, you know, we got here, none of us have been here before. This is an industry event. It's just for retailers and publishers, and they're just now letting media in. So it's like, we're just kind of like on the fringes of just hanging around of things. And so it was just different for those of us who have gone to normal conventions, you know, fan conventions and that, in that it was lots of just seeing things from the industry side. The day, as Lorcana fans, as Liam mentioned, we didn't see anything really until the demo, and that was 9:00 at night. And so the day kind of like started slow with check-in and going to like the media intro panel where it was basically just saying, hey, you're here to cover stuff and tips and tricks kind of thing. And then just kind of slowly going to a couple of panels to see what people are discussing with, like, who knows, just a wide range of things that, you know, building communities at your store and financing stuff. The day just kept getting better as we went through until it culminated in the gameplay and seeing all of that. And then today was just also just incredible with as mentioned, the move to the big room and then seeing that presentation and nothing really being massively new news, but just seeing it like in a cohesive just format of all this stuff and a few new statements and clarifications on a few things. And then going to see the booth and the product boxes and then those new foils and just, it feels like this entire 2 days up to this point has just been like leveling up in excitement like every few hours.
And the videos don't do justice. This room in that we were first in was a very tiny room, and all the chairs were filled up. It's standing room only. People were walking up to the front of the room and sitting in front of the table where they were presenting. Like, they just sat themselves down there, thinking that they could sit there during the presentation. And people were all the way back out in the hallway. They were trying to like crane their heads over. And then it was like a herd of cattle as we moved into the ballroom. And as Liam said, the whole ballroom was just completely filled. It was one of the most remarkable things.
All right, so I think you touched on something a lot of people want to hear more about. Since you've got your hands on these cards that were foiled. So we've had people say they look like cold foils from Flesh and Blood. Some people say they look like foils from Yu-Gi-Oh! Why don't you guys tell us what the foils look like, what they feel like? Are they thicker? Are they not thicker? Like, do you like them? Do you hate them? What are your thoughts?
Well, we actually didn't get to touch them. That was Ryan was the only one who touched them, and then they put them underneath the thing. So we actually haven't touched them. We've only been able to look at them. But I think they look amazing. Ryan did say I think that they were cold foil. And then what they're doing is they actually have someone who is planning out where the foil is going and where it's not, so that they can have it pop as much as possible.
Yeah, one of the things from the Premiere presentation too is somebody asked Ryan about the foiling process, and he made this joke about wanting the curliest foils out there. But I think the process that they've chosen is going to minimize that.
Yeah, it's definitely the cold foil process for Magic players. It's very similar to etched foiling. And, for those of us who handle this, we know that they're a lot better on curling. And so I really don't think, personally that'll be an issue. But, the one thing I'll mention is the art. For anybody following the game, they know that this team has been incredibly passionate about the art that they're creating. And that carries through to the foiling process, because the art team is very carefully selecting which portions of this card to foil and which not to foil in order to augment the art, the piece. And I would not be surprised if that thought process was going into the creation of the art itself, where the art directors are working with the artists to create pieces that will look amazing in this foil. And I can pretty confidently say, at least from my personal opinion, even the common cold foils that might not be playable will be collectible, because the way that the foiling augments the art is just so good. People are going to want to have the foiled versions of these cards.
And I know I keep going back to this but again, the videos don't do it justice. If you could see these foils in real life, they are beautiful.
Yeah. One more thing. What we saw were proofs. And so one little note. So there may be the possibility that they're going to make some adjustments to certain parts of the cards, send them back. So these were not the final cards. These were proofs, as we all know them.
Okay, that is really cool. So now I want to pick your brains on what is getting you personally hyped. There's 3 people on the call. Each of you has something unique to say. You've played demos. You've seen the Ravensburger panel. You've got to see some of the cold foils. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of emotion. So what's that one thing that's really just jamming in your heart that's got you excited?
I will say for me, the thing that made me most excited was seeing people play the game and enjoying it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I almost feel like I've been involved in this game from the beginning. And I know I haven't been, but to see people actually sitting down at this table and having fun makes me feel excited, because I've been so invested in this game for the last 7.5 months. And I don't know, maybe I just feel validated that other people find it as fun as I do. And I feel confident in saying that this really is going to be the next big thing.
As the people hanging out with me this weekend know, I am prone to saying some kind of cheesy things, and I'm going to do it again here. I'm going to go back to the discussion they had today, or the presentation with the retailers. There were several times there were lines and parts of the presentation where Ryan was talking about their support for local game stores, free organized play kits, how much the store or the company values LGSs, and they committed, as a new piece of news, to doing 2-week advance releases for LGSs for the first 6 sets minimum. But so for the next year and a half, all the sets will go to game stores 2 weeks early. And the applause was palpable. For me, it was an emotional moment. And I saw this moment in the room where the industry kind of got behind this game. Because for those who have been in it a while, TCGs come and go, and game stores protect their bottom line. They have to, and they get skeptical sometimes of new products. I think this is a moment that most of the retailers realize this is not just another flash in the pan, and that this company, Ravensburger, is committed to this game and committed to these LGSs as vehicles for distribution and for creating communities around this game. It was an emotional moment for me, honestly.
So mine's kind of similar, but I've had a chance to speak with a few of the Ravensburger's employees who are here. And I'd have to say that, when you go places or you watch things on panels at conventions or press tours, and everybody kind of just has this company line that you hear that someone gave them to say, like, oh, we're a big family, or, we just love doing this. And you are getting pieces of that with this team. But the thing you can't fake is these people who are passionate about their jobs, and people who do this, who talk about the work they're doing in such a positive, happy, and loving manner. They're not faking that part. And from the production to the marketing to the sales to, of course, Ryan and Steve, they are not coming across as in any way faking how much they're enjoying making this game and producing it and doing the stuff like having to check the slight differences of ink color, like 5 different times on one little piece of one card. Those kinds of things come through, that they are enjoying this so much. And I think when you have people behind a product with that much love and care and enjoyment, that it's going to come through, and you're going to have that much love and enjoyment playing the game as well.
Man, you guys are giving me goosebumps over here. I'm excited. So let's talk a little bit about the booth and the products. So you saw the playmats, the sleeves, the deck boxes, etc., etc. What are your thoughts? I know you couldn't touch everything, but based on what you saw and what you did touch and who you talked to, what do you like? What do you not like? What do you think will be a hit? What do you think the people would like once they can actually get their hands on it, since everything's pretty preliminary right now? I'm
going to talk about, I think, the deck boxes and just the general product line. The deck boxes, I was able to feel those. Those feel nice. I think they look nice. I think those are just going to be really nice little display pieces, and people might end up using them for things other than decks, because obviously everyone has preferences for their favorite protection supplies. But I think it's just going back to the art, and I'll let one of them talk about the playmat, because I think they love the playmats too. But just in general, the product line just looks so vibrant. Some of it's foiled, and it just all looks so nice. I mean, it's going to look really nice sitting on shelves. And I think that's just a testament to the product design team and what they're doing. But just the way things look in package before you even open them is just great to me.
So I will start out with one negative, and these guys might disagree, but the cardboard deck boxes that come in the Illumiteers trove, those did feel a little cheap to me. But everything else was fantastic. I loved that Mickey Mouse playmat. When I saw it online, I didn't care for it. I didn't think it looked nice, but seeing it in person, I don't know if they used different art or if it was a different tone of colors, but it looked really slick, felt nice. And then the other standout product for me was the Captain Hook sleeves. We weren't able to touch them, but seeing them in real life, they looked so good. And again, everything else was high quality, and I was very impressed.
I'll offer from a design perspective, in terms of looks, the art, everything else, it's all top notch. They chose the pieces well that would present on these products. There's not a one that you look at either from a distance or up close and you're like, that just doesn't hit the mark. Hard to tell on quality on some of them. I know sleeves are a big concern, and we didn't handle any of the sleeves. But what I will offer is that this is a team, based on our own personal interaction with them and watching them interact with the retailers. This is a team that is very responsive to feedback. And I think they're going to be listening very closely as these products are released and retailers have them in their stores to how they're received by the public. And they're going to be willing to adjust as necessary. There's one line I want to highlight from the presentation today about the products that kind of ties to this whole thing. And that is, putting out these accessories from Ravensburger's perspective was a show of commitment to this game. It wasn't a way to churn out products real quick to make money. It was to show, at least, it's what they tell the retailers, and I think it's true. It's to show the retailers they're behind this game 100%. And they're going to put out a full product line, accessory line, to allow people to experience the game, fully, and to show that they're committed to the game. And for that reason, I think that even if there are issues with the quality on let's say hypothetically the sleeves on this first run, which, to be clear, we didn't handle them, so we don't know what the sleeves are like at all, they'll be responsive to feedback and make any adjustments necessary.
Okay, last couple questions, and then we're going to get on out of here, because I know you guys are going to get ready for another game night in a couple hours, and that's exciting. So you talked a little bit earlier about this palpable excitement during the demo games last night. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit more because the people in the community who've been around since the announcement, we kind of know what to expect. We watch videos, we've seen content creators, so on and so forth. These retailers who are just getting to sit down and learn about, exerting and actions and songs and so on and so forth. What was the attitude of these people as they're just beginning to find out the surface of Lorcana and then actually get to play a game in that room for the first time? Was it positive? Was it exciting? Were people coming back for more? Bring us into that room with you since you were there starting to play games first. And I know someone said that they had to cut the games down to 10 lore because there are just so many people wanting to play.
Let me just say this. The atmosphere was almost pure chaos, especially at the beginning. Liam touched on this. They started us out in the middle of the ballroom at this table that could seat, I don't know, maybe 6 people. Everybody's crowding around it. So then they're like, all right, guys, we're moving to another part. And they had 2 long tables that could fit, I think, 8 people on each table. There was just a mass of people there. And people were it was a herd of elephants to get over there. And it was that same type of energy the whole night from 9 until midnight. And I was able to play 2 games. Both the guys I played with loved the game, really enjoyed it. I mean, confused about some of the mechanics, but once they understood it, it wasn't hard for them to understand. I heard some feedback where people were like, it wasn't for me. But by and large, the vast majority of people liked it, can't wait to carry it, and can't wait to grow a community.
Yeah, I think the important thing to remember for the retailers, for the preponderance of the people up there, is they're playing the game, yes, for their own enjoyment to see if it is for them, but they're also, as they're learning, they're envisioning teaching this game to young kids and TCG players for the first time. And so as they're learning and hearing the rules, we could watch as they were imagining, what that would be like in their store. And I think even those who said, that this might not be the game that they want to play themselves, were excited to teach this game to other people. There's also another interesting note that we watched over and over and over again. I think it happened almost every game that I watched, where people would, draw their opening hand of cards and they would be shuffling through them, and then they'd see a particular card and they'd look at it, and you could tell they were looking at the art. And then they would pick up their whole deck and start shuffling through their deck because they immediately wanted to see what other cards were in this game. So the 2 things that stood out to me were the excitement about the gameplay, but also the excitement about the product itself, the art, and people recognizing the care that went into that.
I don't think I really have much to add to that. I mean, just the atmosphere was crazy, chaotic, positive. I did not hear anyone coming away upset about anything about the game. I'd say that it was just a generally positive but chaotic atmosphere.
It was chaotic.
That's awesome. I'm so excited for Gen Con. We're going to have so much fun. All right, last question, and then we will wrap this up. We saw a post on Twitter that y'all got to play a game with Steve at 1 a.m. So multiplayer game with Steve Warner. What is that like? What happened? Also, who won? And did Steve die first? Go.
Yeah, as if Steve would go out first. So at the end of the night, of course, we were all hanging around as they finished the last game on the official game night. And then Steve was like, hey, guys, want to play another game? And we're like, yeah. And he's like, well, let me go find out if we can play it here. And we couldn't. They were cleaning up. So we went and found some cafe in the hotel and sat down and pulled those 2 tables together and played a game. And, I'll let these guys fill in more details, but it's just being there for that experience of the designer of the game is so excited about playing the game that he is willing to, after a day of whatever else he was doing and staying up until midnight, and he's like, let's go play some more. And then that's all I really want to say. You guys can fill in the rest of the details.
I will say this too. It was a very surreal experience. This is something that, in my wildest dreams, I would have hoped that I've been able to do, and I've been able to do it, and that's amazing. But as far as the actual game goes, yeah, we played multiplayer. Of course, Steve won. I can't remember the lore count, but he obviously got to 20 before the rest of us. It was humbling to learn from him because, we'd make plays and he'd be like, well, this card is really good in this situation. Like there are certain breakpoints in Lorcana. And so this card actually has really good value. So it's nice that he's giving us those helpful hints, but he also is not in the business of handing out W's to make yourself feel better. Like he didn't take it easy on us, but at the same time, you could feel his passion for the game coming out during every turn, every little chuckle at our misplays.
You could tell so it was late. We were all very tired. Some of us were in a brain fog. So we were very slow when making some of our decisions. But despite the fact that, at least for me, my turns were probably 2 times longer than they should have been as I made decisions, you could tell that he enjoyed watching us think through the process. And he just loved sitting there watching us try to figure out, the optimal plays, et cetera. So I will say I lost. I did terribly, but what an incredible experience. What an incredible experience. I'm sure that somewhere back in the 90s, very early on, somebody got to sit down with Richard Garfield and play a game of Magic at the game's inception that they remembered for the rest of their life. And I felt very similar yesterday.
Absolutely. I mean, like Liam said, the fact that we were sitting here till 1 a.m. in a cafe at a hotel playing with one of the designers of Lorcana, that's something that we're always going to look back on and be like, I don't know, I probably a highlight of our lives. That might sound ridiculous, but it really was. This is something we've all been waiting for 7.5 months. And if it does take off, like I remember when, it was so special.
I know this is the last question. I want to offer one more thought, and it's kind of related to this. The Lorcana community right now is small, compared to other card games. We all know that, but it is a community. You saw it when Steve grabbed us and wanted to go play a game with us because he knew that we were fans and we were part of the community. You saw it last night. There were people. There were a few other content creators. There were people who had followed Citizens of Lorcana on Twitter and who came up and, when they realized, who Jared and James were and this podcast, who were excited and took pictures with them. The Lorcana fans who were here recognized each other, knew each other, online. We tried to help everybody be a part of this experience, and we could see the community's palpable excitement in return. And so that game last night was just a piece, a taste of this community that we're building that is very real, very supportive, and is only going to grow as we get closer to release.
And piggybacking on that, I will say that even in our very first thing we did, that whole media, how to media GAMA thing, they mentioned the thing that some of the content creators have mentioned going forward in Lorcana, which is, a rising tide raises all. And they said that for the journalists, and it's the same thing because, all the content creators are doing the same thing. And I would say that what has been happening in the Lorcana community, we all need to make sure that we continue to do it, because that is going to make everything better for all of us.
I absolutely agree. Now, that just sounds like a lot of fun. Playing games, meeting people, enjoying this fantastic community. All right, so before we get on out of here, where can people find you? Where can they see or listen to your content?
They can follow James and I on YouTube or Spotify or any podcast account at the Citizens of Lorcana Podcast. I'm also on Twitter under the same handle. I'll pass it to James.
James is on Twitter at Dan Regal, pretty much everywhere on social media at Dan Regal. So you can check it out there.
And I'm Liam. I'm one half of the team at the Illumiteers. My wife is the other half. We are on Twitter under the handle @Illumiteers or on YouTube @Illumiteers. And we would all love for you to follow on.
And are there any last thoughts or things you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
Can I take a nap now?
I will just say, being here at this moment has been definitely a highlight. I was not able to get any of the D23 cards. So when I sat down at that table and I actually got to hold Lorcana cards in my hand, it was a very surreal experience. And it's one that I can't wait for everybody else to experience as well. It's one thing to play with proxies or whatever else, but to actually have these amazing cards, it's unbelievable. And I can't wait.
Last thing I'll say is, obviously, we're all invested. We believe in this game. It's evident based on what we do. This is something special. It really is. You see it here. You see it when you talk to the retailers, and you see it when you talk to fans. This is a special game.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We hope you have a great time at game night tonight. Maybe we'll see new cards. Maybe we won't. But it's been a blast to see GAMA vicariously through your social media, through your posts, through your streams. So on my end, for people who are sitting at home and unable to go, thank you very much. We really appreciate all the hard work you put in to kind of bring us along with you on this journey.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Just take you